lost thoughts lead you astray. Then I cry, then I feel pain. Why do I suffer so much? I would love to feel your touch. Baby, I don't know where to go. I feel so lost without you. Baby, I don't know where to go. I feel so lost without you. Baby, I don't know where to go. I feel so lost without you. Baby, I don't know where to go. I feel so lost without you. Save me before I pass out. Save me before I pass out. Before I pass out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the finale of what has been a tumultuous season here in Tier 5 of the Moose Racing League. It is Season 9, it is Silverstone, and it promises to be potentially the most controversial race of the weekend. A beautiful track, my home circuit, 5.89 kilometers, 3.6 miles, 18 turns, all the way through some of the most competitive racing you will ever see around this track. Several overtaking opportunities. There's not a point on the track where you can just sit behind someone and hope that everything works out. You could make a move into turn 3 if you wanted to. That is the glory of this track. It is a beautiful circuit, and I'm only saying that because I'm British, but also because it is just me in the booth once again. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am Fallen Dad, and joining me for the final time from the dead, it is Kiss My Axe. And of course he's not there. That's unfortunate. This would be his last time appearing for us. Also, peep the merch. I love this outfit. It's gorgeous. Black and gold does suit me quite well. But unfortunately, we have no Lotus or Haas Rich Energy on the grid anymore. It's just regular white Haas, which is not too bad. But speaking of Haas, they have not had the best of seasons. They do find themselves locked out of the Constructors' standings now, despite being in P2, because Red Bull secured the Constructors' standings last time out. A great set of performances from both Midnight and GoldenDrift, racking up 18 points, which was enough to secure them the title. A very strong season from both of them. Meanwhile, Haas now have overtaken McLaren, who they were behind originally. Now 4 points the difference between those two teams heading into the final round of the season. But as for the drivers' standings, the important key driver standings, GoldenDrift has secured the championship. We got confirmation of it on Friday when the penalties came through. GoldenDrift leads the championship heading into this final round by 33 points from Cartman, Jim Just Raged and Knight, who are all within 7 points of each other, 90, 86 and 83 respectively. They are all still in the fight for P2, and that is the battle we're going to be looking out for today, as well as the overall team's championship. There is so much to keep track of. I'm doing my best to try and keep on top of it. For the most part, heading into this weekend, it's a 3, maybe 4 horse race for the Constructors' standings. We're looking at Red Bull, Williams, Alpine and Mercedes to have good weekends. They are all within 43 points of each other between each different tier. AlphaTauri way down the order in P8 ahead of Ferrari and Aston Martin. They're fighting for the wooden spoon of it all. Which team will be the lowest? For the most part, though, it'd be interesting to see how many points GoldenDrift can get, because the most points scored by anyone this season is 158 so far before the British Grand Prix. That was by Welshie. GoldenDrift has 123 and is sat in 3rd in the overall points scored standings, which is a ridiculous number. But what we can do now is get ready to get going with the race this weekend. Of course, we do have qualifying ahead of us. 18, sorry, how many cars are on track currently? 16 cars currently in the lobby, potentially more, but no reserves this weekend, as I'll pull up the stream for you now so you can all have a look at it whilst we get going. Chat, you're going to be on stream. Drop some messages. You're up now. Hello, everyone. We're in a better view now. Chat, it is promising to be a good weekend. I need to swap groups for a second. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm king. I'm really good at that. No rain, apparently, this weekend from Edge. That's important to note. If that is the case, we could be in for maybe the more or most chaotic weekend we've ever seen. It will be an AlphaTauri who will be out first. I'm trying to currently comprehend which one that is. It will not be Vince. It'll be the other one of Bouncy. Bouncy, of course, race winner last time out for AlphaTauri. Came home in P1, started P4, had a very good qualifying session by his standards, and came home with a very solid set of points for AlphaTauri, which was very useful in them climbing up from 9th to 8th in the Constructors' standings. Meanwhile, the Ferrari representative on the grid today is Angry Shadow 20, who's not had the best of seasons here in Tier 5, has not been in contention for the title. There's a potential chance for them to make a stick. By the way, chat, I have you up on my second monitor today, very importantly, right next to me. So if you have any questions, I also just realised I forgot to turn my light on. There we go, now you can see me a bit better. If you have any questions regarding anything, please drop them in the chat. I will be able to see them today. I will be able to help you out. Fingers crossed nothing breaks. That's the only issue we have, if there is going to be one. Either way, Bouncy will begin the first flying lap. You'll see a lot of the 16 cars, I believe 14 of them currently out on track, so a lot of people around to set laps. There's a potential that some people could be held up if they don't time their laps correctly. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. I'm glad that this is looking pretty good. The Master of the Half Crab is some merch I'm wearing. Lovely, lovely set of merch. Red Bull have a lot of supporters in the chat, and mainly due to the fact that they do have a world champion on their team. GoldenDrift, the man, the myth, the legend, came home P3 last weekend. Was enough for the win in the standings. In fact, I believe, if my math serves me correctly, he could have finished even lower. He could have finished as low as P7, and he would have still won the championship last weekend. That's how far ahead in the standings he was. But as we do have a yellow flag for a spun Alpine as GoldenDrift begins his flying lap, that might be controversial. We'll see if that causes any problems. Meanwhile, Bouncy still on his flying lap. There's a potential to be blocked here if the McLaren doesn't hurry up, which could cause some problems. Gets a wheel on the grass as well, which is not helpful. Good acceleration out of the corner. Across the line. This will be our banker for the rest of the lobby. It's a 26.7. It's not the best lap because we do have an Alpine crossing the line. And it's B-Slice, and he only sets a 28.8. Jim just raged. It's not on a flying lap. It'll be Mark Mage across the line. He'll finish his lap. Goes P2 for the moment. The 27.6. That's the Alpine. Oh, so the Williams, I believe MRK, or Nicky G, sorry, has boxed. His lap not good enough in his mind. Two other drivers looking to do well this weekend. Knight and his teammate Toast. The two Haas boys who looked so promising heading into this weekend haven't been able to necessarily hook anything together over the past 2 weekends. This time around, though, will they find themselves at the front of the grid? He'll be off by 5 thousandths. Knight goes P2. But now here comes his teammate. Toast has boxed. Live overall constructors, Williams lead by 40. Ooh, as John does work, puts a good lap in for Mercedes. That puts him on pole position provisionally currently. We do have an Alpine on a lap. That will be Norm Bash who will be finishing his lap. It's not looked good in the middle sector. He's about 2/10 off what he needs to be. And he's dropped more in the final sector. That'll be P4 for him. Respectable so far. The only McLaren representative, Cartman, who has at points looked like the fastest driver this season, will go P4 as well. Thank you, Giants fan, for the information. Across the line comes, I believe, the other Alpine. Normbash will go, also B-Slice will improve to a 26.7, and Midnight behind him will now start a second flying lap. His first one was a bit of a dud. Alfa Romeo's coming around the final corner. Jim just raged, is up by 13 seconds, but he's had such a bad final sector, and that is going to cost him massive amounts of time. It's only good enough for a 28.2 as he struggles on fuel. Meanwhile, also on flying laps, round the grid we're looking at the Mercedes boys. Van Marmo is coming onto his flying lap. GoldenDrift is on his. No, he's not. GoldenDrift had his lap invalidated. Potentially ran wide in the final sector. The question is, does he have the fuel to go for one more lap? I'm having a look. I'm trying to look at the wheel. It's very hard to tell. Red Bull big down. Yeah. It's not been looking good for Red Bull so far this weekend. Who was the race winner for Tier 6, by the way? Chat, let me know. I want to know who came away with the win there. I wasn't able to watch. I was too busy trying to set this up. As meanwhile, there's a yellow flag for a Red Bull, and I believe that's Midnight, who has in fact ran out of fuel. Nope, he's just going slow. Jesus, Midnight, don't give me a heart attack like that. Elsewhere, Amamo is on a lap. Never one for quali paces, Amamo. He likes to take it safe. Jay Morrison. Oh, Axe is apparently hungover. Axe, welcome, bud. You're dead again for the final time. It's been a pleasure not casting with you this season. Jay Morrison taking home the win. Good for him. It's good to see new drivers getting wins in different tiers. Probably not his first win. As you can see, Amamo is actually just weaving. I don't think he's necessarily too fussed about this lap. He may be boxing. We'll see. Nope, he will complete it. I believe Umamo has a quali ban. Potentially. Good job, Johnson. Yeah, as Nikki G is the one with a ban. I remember this now. Nikki G comes into this weekend with a qualifying ban and 10-second time penalty to his added to his time at the end of the race. That carries over from last week. Meanwhile, MRK is on a flying lap now. This is the man who I have requested to come home with a pole and win today. The man who has been perennially on pole position this season. Meanwhile, GoldenDrift, if you're wondering, is on a flying lap and should be about to put his car in the front row. However, he's not taking the final corner very well. He's still managed to get to the line, but he's definitely lost some time there. MRK now, through Maggots and Beckett. You'll get there eventually, Giants fan. Third time's the charm. Good job. MRK now, wrapping his way down. Hanger straight. Oh, very, very well done. Just keeps the car on the limit through that corner. Now brakes at the 100. Tries to carry speed through. Got to be careful not to lose too much speed through that first half of the chicane. Across the line he comes. It's only a 26-1. A 10th off of pole. GoldenDrift remains in the front of the field. Meanwhile, in front of them, P5 currently Knight in that Haas is also on a flying lap. Just looking around to make sure that he is the only one. Believe so. Only a 26-1. Yeah, Sean, I'm a little disappointed. I know he has more pace in the tank. Oh, Knight there, losing the back end. Coming on to Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. Here's the thing, Sean. 9 times out of 10, you're going to see drivers today. I would not be surprised if pole time round here was in the 25s. It is very possible to hit a 25 round here. But it's very hard to string the lap together the full way. Anyway, the Haas now of Knight is up by about a 10th. Everyone roasting Tiller in the chat. Gotta love it. It's at the braking zone. Pretty decently taken by Knight. Will this put him on the front row? No, it will not, but it'll put him on the second one for now as he goes P4. Ghost Rider has retired from the session. He joined late. He will start from the back of the grid. Meanwhile, behind, believe that is Mark Major on a lap. Mark Major up by a 10th in the first sector. Now coming through Maggots and Beckett. You want to cut it so fine. And you kind of want to drop it into 6th gear for the acceleration. Out of the corner, he's gained half a second. That'll put him in contention currently for a front row. Everyone is just roasting each other in chat now. This is lovely. Tier 5 never disappoints. If you haven't watched the chat sometimes, it's worth it. Anyway, Mark Major at the final corner. He's not had the greatest of exits. Has had wheel spin all over the place and barely improves his position. He's a 26.9, puts in P8. Meanwhile, Spinner, that'll be B-Slice, who's on his outlap. Meanwhile, Midnight on a flying lap is still going. Doesn't seem to have died and is looking for his first competitive lap time of this session. Red Bull needs this. Red Bull are currently trailing by 40 points as of this moment in the constructors' standings. Up to 4th gear early from Midnight. It's not a great lap from him in reality, and it's still only good enough for P13. Jim Just Raged has him beat, and is now going to improve on his time potentially. Gets up to 4th early. Round the final corner. He's improved massively in the final sector, where he messed it up before. Overtakes B-Slice. He will go up to P11. Normbash across the line. Goes P4. And puts it on the second row. Great lap from him. Meanwhile, looking down the order. Angry Shadow. Not on a flyer. Cartman. Potentially on a flyer here. He's got his teammate in front of him. That is of Zoso, who's on an outlap. And I wonder if he's going to get a tow here. McLaren have been very good for this before. Oh, but Cartman's had a moment. And Zoso doesn't give him the toe. Cartman's had a massive moment out of the exit of back of Beckett's. And he will just box instead of finishing the lap. Lost about 4 tenths through there. Disappointing for him. Meanwhile, Zoso will be looking to try and put a lap together for McLaren. A reminder, the gaps right now, Alpine are looking very much in danger. Normbash, the only driver remotely close to keeping the constructor standings alive. Meanwhile, the battle for P2 in the standings here is also quite close. Chat, for the love of God, stop roasting each other and focus on the race. Guys, come on. What are you doing up there? Come on. There is qualifying on. Why are you not paying attention to the qualifying? It's all jokes. Zoso, 28-0 first sector is not a bad first sector, but he's ran wide there. Now coming on to the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. High revs, but keeps the car under control. Now through Cops. How brave are you on the turn? And he's very brave. I know there's a civil war in chat, but you can have it on the track instead. So not able to carry the speed through the exit of Beckett's though, and he's lost a lot of time in that middle sector there. This is not necessarily the most impressive lap. They'll need a strong final sector. Oh, and he's gone a bit deep as well. It's just going to lose him more time. And hesitant on the throttle there. Didn't want to risk it. And he'll only put in P14. Not a great lap from him. Meanwhile, GoldenDrift has just backed out of his lap. He was 2 tenths down in the first sector. John does work. Who is currently P3. And has been basically a non-factor this season at points. Is now looking to try and stake Mercedes' claim to the front row. He's lost a 1/10.5 on the first sector though. And goes deep there. Tries to carry the speed out of the exit. As everyone starts coming out for what I believe will be their final flying laps. 2 minutes 30 on the clock. And we're still yet to see Vince. Who has not gone out of the pit lane yet. Meanwhile, John's actually gone very quick in the middle sector. He's gained nearly 2 tenths in the middle sector. This will be his final flying lap. He won't be able to set another one unless he just does a really, really slow out lap. Or second lap here. Oh, but he's gone deep. And he's carrying the speed, but he's a little slow off the exit. It's an improvement, but it's not enough to break the front two. He will start from P3 or lower. Meanwhile, GoldenDrift has had an awful first sector and is going for one more warm-up lap. Meanwhile, B-Slice will be our first driver. We're going to go watch B-Slice for this lap. P13 currently in the Alpine. Alpine need a good, strong qualifying session. As Midnight retires, he will not improve on P12. Mark Mage has retired. He will not improve on P9. Nicky and Ghost Rider starting from the back. Nicky, of course, with his quali ban, will not be able to compete as everyone starts their final flying laps. And B-Slice, I believe, has backed out of his, or at least forgot to turn ERS on. I don't even know if he's forgot to turn ERS on. He is pushing. Like, I'm not... Am I blind? Am I dumb? What is going on here? I'm so confused. Either way, got a couple cars still coming onto their flying laps. One driver who isn't Oh, one driver who is John, who is boxing. He is done for the session. Meanwhile, here comes B-Slice on his no ERS lap. Across the line. He's turned his ERS on now. So maybe he was just doing 2 hot laps back to back. I don't see the logic in that. But here we go. Meanwhile, into the pits comes the other Mercedes of Amamo. He backs out of his lap. AlphaTauri will be the next one across the line. He'll be bouncy. Up by 1/4 of a second. What can he do? Crosses the line. Still P4. Great lap from him. 0.3. Across the line now comes the Alfa Romeo of Jim. Displaces his teammate. 1,000th between them. Now the Haas of Toast will cross the line at some point. No, that's Knight. Sorry. Here comes Toast. Across the line. What can he do? P5 only. Now the Red Bull of GoldenDrift on old tyres. Can he improve? No, he can't. So that leaves the world in MRK's hands. And Cartman, who are the only 2 drivers properly still on a lap. Cartman is up by 1/10, but it's not enough currently. And he's caught the inside curb heavily there, so he's not carrying the speed. Drift has not improved. MRK is up. He is up in the middle sector. Cartman can't improve to P9. Here comes MRK. He can't take pole. 700ths the difference. It's not enough to secure pole position on the final race of the season. But B-Slice now, the last driver to cross the line, will go P12. A great job from him. And qualifying will come to an end with maybe one of the tightest grids we have seen yet. Less than 200ths of a second separate the top 2. John will start P3 for the final round of the season. Bouncy, who won from P4 last time, starts from P4 again. Toast and Norm Bash alongside each other, 5 and 6. Knight P7. Great job from the Haas boys to get good qualifying again. Ferrari's Angry Shadow, the only representative for Ferrari, is P8. Cartman P9, and the Alfa Romeos 10th and 11th. Meanwhile, B-Slice at P12, Amamo P13, Midnight P14. Zoso will be the last of the men to set a lap. Will start P15. Nicky G, Ghost Rider, and Vince all not setting any representative times due to the fact that Nicky G has a grid penalty to the back of the grid, and Ghost Rider and Vince either had a technical difficulty or could not make it out of the pit lane. It's a ridiculously good qualifying session as I get a ping in the comms sign in telling me to sign in. I already have, thank you very much. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting ready to get going. So, for that, I need to find the transition button. I'm going to come back to my face for a bit whilst we wait to get going. That's right, you're not getting it yet. You're stuck with me. Chat, let me know who we think. Oh, Toast won Singapore. Never mind. You finished first on my screen. That's all that matters. Either way, we are getting ready to get going at Silverstone. It is reportedly a dry race, which means that there's still probably going to be safety cars, let's be honest. There never is a clean race around Silverstone. It is chaos incarnate. So let's see who comes away with the most points and the race win here today. We just wait now for everyone to select their strategy, fuel load, and preparation for the race. Predictions in chat. GoldenDrift finishing out with a W. He actually hasn't won in quite a while, which is a bit weird. I say that, I think it's a race. He's not won. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to go racing. 5 red lights, and we're underway at the Silverstone Grand Prix. MRK trails GoldenDrift, who leads into turn 1. Meanwhile, behind them, Toast and Bouncy trying to get a great start. Bouncy's done a great job to get up to P3. John does work up to P4, getting ahead of the Haas into turn number 3. But Toast has got back in front again, and now is looking for the move on Bouncy up the inside, heading through 5, down the main straight. And there's a yellow flag behind. It's for Zoso, who's round, and there is wing damage for someone. And it appears to be Nicky G, who've made contact into turn 3. Meanwhile, more battles going on. Midnight gets ahead of Jim. Great job from him. He needs to gain positions for Red Bull in the constructors' standings. They are closing the gap to Williams because of Nicky G falling back. but MRK is still there at the front. Meanwhile, John does work after a great start, has dropped behind both Haas cars and has fell back down a P6. We can see the strategy calls now. That's what we're looking to see. And we'll see the tyre strategy. The most key one of them all, Toast is on softs. And he is pushing early to get the move done on Bouncy. Into the long right-hander, has done it beautifully and has got the move done on Bouncy. He's up to P3. Great overtake from him. Meanwhile, down the order, Knight now putting the pressure on Bouncy, who's just struggled to get those tyres hooked up. Those hard tyres not cooking yet. As GoldenDrift leads by about 6/10 from MRK, who's being trailed by Toast. And Knight, oh, bit of contact there at the rear of Bouncy. And those hard tyres are not switching on at all. And here comes Knight, looking up the inside. Just threatening to leave the nose in there, forcing Bouncy to go deep. But doesn't cause an overtake yet. Cartman behind, meanwhile, looking to try and secure P2 in the standings. Potentially today. Actually, I need to double check that, but either way, mostly hards and mediums across the board. Meanwhile, Toast is actually caught to the back of MRK, but a bit of a mistake there. Cost him some time. Apparently MRK's race pace is really good. We'll have to see. The gap's still 7/10. DRS will be enabled next lap. And MRK seems to have a straight line set up here. As meanwhile, Knight has got round the outside of Bouncy. Great job from him to get the move done. And now Bouncy will be under pressure from Cartman as well. As we watch from the rear wing of Knight as the GoldenDrift on the medium tyres. It's a 29.7. As there's a yellow flag. And that is for a Ferrari. And you know who that means. That means it's Angry Shadow. And he has gone round. Now needs to safely rejoin the track. Oh, but he spun it again. And this is unfortunate for Ferrari, who are looking to try and not secure last place in the constructors' standings. But right now, they're only making it difficult for themselves. Meanwhile, Vince will have DRS this lap. The rear wing is open. And the move is complete. Ghost Rider could not keep him behind. Has burnt through most of his ERS as well. Trying to defend. But hasn't been able to. Meanwhile, the Alfa Romeo is struggling to find pace. They're not on the points just yet. Muck Mage and Jim both sat outside. 12th and 13th respectively for the Alfa Romeo kick team. As you can see there, Muck Mage getting a warning. Going off track. At the front, you can see battles starting to form. A pack is formed behind Bouncy, who got back past Knight into turn 4. But now Knight will look to return the favour. DRS advantage. Down the straight he goes. Will get the move done clean as a whistle. But Bouncy, oh, is so much quicker. Out of the exit of that corner. Almost went for the move. Had to hit the rear of Knight. Trying to carry the speed. Doesn't have the grip though yet. Again on those hards. They are just not waking up. Meanwhile at the front. Gap's about the same. Half a second between first, second and third. MRK though is a little bit closer than normal. But GoldenDrift just seems to have the pace through the first sector. Able to pull away the gap consistently. 2-3 tenths through there. Is able to survive. Meanwhile now. Back down the order. Bouncy's maybe looking for a move here. As there is a yellow flag in sector 1, it's for a Red Bull. It's for Midnight. And I don't know if he got forced off the track or if he made a mistake himself. But he was off at turn 4 and he has dropped out of the points and down to P15. And this is horror news for the Red Bull fans in chat. As there is another yellow flag. This one is for Angry Shadow, who's gone around again. He is just struggling with tyre grip at this point. Meanwhile, Nicky G on a set of mediums. Pushing, knowing full well that Williams could still be in this race as long as there is a solid safety car at some point. Meanwhile, GoldenDrift under pressure now from MRK. The gap closing into the turn. Can't seem to get the move done. into turn 15. Meanwhile, oh, there's been contact. And Bouncy has gone off track and he's lost 3 positions there, maybe more, as he's had to rejoin. There has been a huge squabble and somehow Cartman's ended up at the front of it. And both Knight and Bouncy have lost out massively. And what that's done is it's actually brought Omamo, Normbash and B-Slice right back into the hunt as well for high points, because now they're on the end of this train. Huge incident here. And we have no idea where it came from. Meanwhile at the front, Toast is actually closed right up to the back of MRK here. He doesn't have any ERS to work with though. And those softs must be dying of death around now. Around lap 5 is where we see this drop off in performance. As people, John and Knight battling side by side. Can John defend? Knight's going to go round the outside onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. And he's done an amazing job to get ahead as Nicky G sets the fastest lap of the race, pushing on those mediums in clean air. Meanwhile, Ghost Rider's got back past Vince. That's a move for P13 now. Great job from him. But now the battle in for 4th is about to get a bit hectic. Let's watch this from the rear wing of Cartman. He's the leader of this pack. But John is actually under more pressure here. Bouncy's not too far behind. And he's got a bit deep. At the end of the Hamilton straight, at the end of the Kemmel straight. But he will hang on to his position as will everyone else. But John is going super defensive on those hards. He's already dropped to 2nd back tonight, and what that's doing is it's giving Bouncy more incentive to make a move. And in fact, I don't think John's going to have DRS this lap off of the leading 2 of this pack. Meanwhile, the front 3 stretching a bit now. 8/10 the gap between all 3 drivers. And there is no DRS. John did drop out, but he's managed to just about gap Bouncy there to stop a move from coming. Meanwhile, Omamo for the Mercedes team is doing a very good job as well. Keeping in that fight. This is what we wanted to see from him all season long. He's just not been as competitive as we'd like to see from the Mercedes boys. Meanwhile, the Alpine team behind him currently holding each other up potentially. Normbash wanting to get past. We know he's got the pace. We've seen him this season be at the front of the grid. As meanwhile, GoldenDrift has received a 3-second time penalty. Ooh. That's interesting. And that adds a whole new dynamic to this race for MRK, because now he doesn't have to make the move. And speaking of making moves, Omama's just gone around the outside of Bouncy. Oh, but he's got off track. And I wonder if that's to do with Bouncy there on the inside. Oh, there's contact! And around go both drivers. As Omamo rejoins the track, and there was contact there for Bouncy. On the inside, Omamo turned in. And the 2 drivers came together. As meanwhile, Toast from the front of the grid was dropping off the back of the pack. Of the front 2, has now pit for medium tyres. Has gone for the ultimate undercut on a 2-stop. And that's a risky play around here. Because if a safety car was to come out now, he would be dead last. Meanwhile, Norm and B-Slice have swapped positions. I believe Norm may have fell behind it a momentary moment. But it doesn't seem to have affected the team strategy at all. Meanwhile, Cartman and Knight is now the battle for P3 as there's a yellow flag, and that is again for the Angry Shadow, spinning at turn 4. Yeah, MRK stonks going up, and in fact he's now on the gearbox of GoldenDrift coming out of Beckett's. As Bouncy receives a 3-second time penalty, and there may be more to follow that. As meanwhile, Knight has got the move done. Potentially, Cartman comes across a little aggressively there, but there is no danger for Knight. He secures P3. Cartman will look to try and make the move, maybe, into the final 3 corners, but chooses not to. Doesn't want to risk it. And a very smart play there from Knight. Now we'll look to try and break the DRS through the first sector, but it's very hard to do so. There's not many corners, and most of them are full speed high grip corners. Both men share the same length of tyre, and so there shouldn't really be any major difficulties. Meanwhile, Midnight is all over the back of Zoso now. That's a battle for 14th on the track. Won't be showing you it, as Angry Shadows caused another yellow flag there, and Maggots and Beckett's is now firmly in last place. As Knight... Oh, Cartman! Dangerous move. Knight has to go deep, and the position has to be given back. Cartman misjudged his braking point, and what it's done is it's actually cost him in the long run as well, because now John Does Work has sidled his way through again into P4, which will be a net P5 once everyone pits and Toasty gets back ahead. And that's huge for John, because what that's done is it's brought him into this pack. He was about a second adrift. He was away from the pack. Now, Mercedes have a chance to get some big points here. Can John get a good exit? No, he can't. Cartman is all over his back end. And although John is closing up on Knight, he's not closing it off. And that will be Cartman back up to P4 for McLaren. Meanwhile, MRK just sort of keeping a fair arm's distance away from GoldenDrift. In fact, he's fell a bit further back than an arm, because now he's out of DRS through Sector 1. Pushing to the line. That's the detection point. It was 0.968. We'll see if the rear wing opens. I think it should, though, as Normbash and Beaslow swap positions once again. Now Bouncy's on their rear end, and Bouncy might be looking for a move into turn 3. Opts out. Chooses not to. MRK does in fact have DRS, but he's fell 1.2 seconds back from GoldenDrift, and I'm worried for him if he does not get back in that zone, because if GoldenDrift is able to pull away here, it could be the end of MRK's chances of keeping within that 3-second window, as Bouncy has got past B-Slice now into the DRS turn at turn 6, and is chasing now after Norm Bash, who is the car in front, who's not had a great exit onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. Gap is 1.3. GoldenDrift not the best exit out of Maggots and Beckett's though. But he's burned his ERS this lap. He was nearly at a full tank of ERS. He is now down to just 50. MRK has less. He's not been able to keep up. Meanwhile, Knight and Cartman playing a bit of game of chicken here. Both on the medium tyres. Cartman feigns to go for a move, doesn't do it. Meanwhile, Vince has got back past Ghost Rider. He's now up to P11 on track. Ahead of Amamo, who was just tucked in behind them. Meanwhile, Zoso putting Midnight under a bit of pressure here for P14. And Toast ever approaching in that Haas, and the gap has opened up massively. MRK is struggling on those hard tyres. 1.9 seconds to gap, as meanwhile Bouncy's lost a bunch of positions there, and I wonder what happened with him and B-Slice, because he dropped positions not just to him but to Jim as well. Now Bouncy chasing after B-Slice. Will he make the move into turn 5? As there's a yellow flag, and it's for an Aston Martin. It's of Ghost Rider, who I believe has gone deep at 3 or 4 and has completely lost it. Meanwhile, Cartman and Knight. Oh, we've missed it, but they've gone side by side through cops. I apologise for missing that one. Oh, boy. Here's the thing. Knight's going to have a better exit out of there. ERS enabled, DRS enabled. 2 moves is all you're allowed on the straight. Cartman then takes his braking point. There's contact into the braking zone. Oh, and there's more contact. And Cartman just drove him off track. What is going on there between those two? Ridiculous situation. Meanwhile, Beaslice is back ahead of Bouncy, who's trying to keep it around the outside of the final corner. Like I said, you can have an overtake anywhere at this track. There's proof of it. On board with B-Slice. He's got Jim and Muck behind him now. Muck has closed back up to this pack. What great racing we're seeing here at Silverstone. quality across the grid. And sometimes a little bit too aggressive. I've had 7. Meanwhile, Angry Shadow's round again. He's lost it out of the exit this time. At some point, you got to think he's going to pit at some point. Otherwise, he's going to cause an accident. Meanwhile, has everything settled down? Probably not, because Cartman's now on the same piece of track as Knight once again. Meanwhile, John is now got up to P3. Great job from him on those hard tyres. He's now going to be under pressure from Knight, though, who's burning ERS, burning DRS. Goes to the inside, clean as you like. No messing around. John tries to go for the cutback, but can't get his foot down on those old hard tyres, and will not make the move stick. Meanwhile, behind them, there's a yellow flag! And it's because 2 cars have collided, and it's B-Slice and Bouncy. And I had a feeling there was going to be impact there. And meanwhile, Bouncy! A span across the track, and he's hit Midnight. And Midnight's out, and that's a safety car. There's your heart attack. Red Bull have just lost a driver. And a safety car has been deployed. Bouncy has just got a 5-second for speeding. Holy Jesus Christ, Bouncy has just retired from the race. Meanwhile, Nicky, can he get the car stopped? Yes, he can. Who this has benefited is everyone but Toast, who has to pit again, is now pitting for hards to the end. My heart is in my mouth here. This is ridiculous. This has undone all of the positive work the GoldenDrift has done as well. This was about to be, I believe, his pit stop lap to a set of hards. But instead, now he has to pit and come out comfortably right next to MRK. In the exact position he doesn't want to be. Will either of them speed into the pit lane? MRK's actually gained a bunch of time into the pits on GoldenDrift. And I'm surprised I've not seen anyone go for a move into the pit lane. They are legal. As long as you've crossed the first white line, you can actually make an overtake. Mediums should make it. Mediums should make it to the end. What is MRK going for? He is going for mediums. He's risking it. Knight boxing for Haas. He's boxing to a set of medium tyres as well. Softs. Okay. Cartman on hard. John's on mediums. Norm's on hards. Sorry. Knight? We need to talk. Also, John's been done dirty by this safety car because he's dropped back down a P5. He's fell behind both the cars he'd overtaken. Yeah, in reality, it's going to be like 10, 11 laps, which is what GoldenDrift had already done on those mediums. He should be fine to make it to the end. Mediums is the right call if you're on hards, and hards are the right call if you're on mediums. Pitting for softs is a stupid idea. Politely. Meanwhile, Toast. Will he get ahead of anyone out of the pit lane? He's tried to push past Zoso. It's not worked out. He's had to give the position back. Yeah, everyone will be struggling by the end. That's the thing around here. Tyre wear is ridiculous. And we get a note now from Bouncy as to the reason for the incident. Over throttled on the rejoin. So let's have a look at the penalty situation. Only 2 drivers currently have penalties on the track. Yeah, MRK just needs to keep in the DRS. He'll have the faster tyre. That's the thing. It's a moo-on-moo murder. It was. Moo-on-moo violence is an actual problem in this country, and we really need to work to reduce the moo-on-moo violence. God, it's so hot in here, man. Oh. All these heated exchanges on track. You can see the stops. Nicky G and Toast, of course, with their early pit stops. Toast started on the soft tyre, had a choice whether or not he wanted to go back onto mediums, decided to go for hards. He didn't trust it. Fair play, and he's down in P13. He was originally in the battle for the lead of the race, which... It's wild. Meanwhile, Knight, P3, on the softs, could be a threat to this front two. Specifically, to MRK's chances of staying in the DRS. Because of this Neapolitan colour scheme we've got going on here, of white, yellow, red. I'm very, very nervous for this restart. Cartman, by the way, great job from him. No worries, Sean, you're fine. The important thing here is looking at the rest of the grid, though. Cartman is now in the fight for the lead. And that's huge for him. And it's something what we're expecting to see from him. I'm going to quickly look up some stuff. I apologise for the delay to the race. I'm just looking up the championship standings. I want to make sure I'm getting this right, so I have them up. There we go. So Cartman is currently P2 in the standings and is fighting for P2. Jim is his closest rival, 4 points behind. Knight is the rival right behind them. So there's 7 points between Cartman and Knight currently. And as they would finish right now, Knight would be in P3 ahead of Jim, but behind Cartman, who would secure P2 in the standings. That's the key statistic. MRK is looking to potentially jump Jim if he has a bad restart here. But we'll see as we get ready to go racing again. We will get the safety car in this lap message very, very soon. Meanwhile, John Does Work is potentially about to overtake Vince for what would be a P8 in the P7 in the standings. Midnight had already secured P7 unless Vince won today. As now we get the message on our screen. Safety car in this lap. And it will be GoldenDrift who leads us away. Chat. I could pull you up. You know what? Let's do it. Screw it. This will be an interesting restart. Everyone on equal ground except for our championship winner and race leader, GoldenDrift, who leads MRK from this restart. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. Whether he goes into the chicane or before it or out of it. And it appears he's gone. MRK up to speed. GoldenDrift will lead us away. And he has gapped MRK off the restart. A full second almost already. MRK burning the ERS to try and keep him close. Meanwhile, behind him is Knight in the Haas, trying to get a good start as well. His tyres will be fully up to temp. And you know he's going to be quick off the start here. Meanwhile, Cartman's fell comfortably behind. He got done dirty by the chicane. Behind them, no real moves. Vince is right behind Jim, but he's dropped a whole second already. And we're seeing gaps like that across the board. Knight is all over the back of MRK here. He needs to get by. He's got the pace in those soft tyres. He'll try and look up the inside here onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight. Won't go for it. Now using the ERS. Backside of going for the move, just sits in the slipstream. And we'll just wait. Meanwhile, Cartman and John have completely splintered from each other. 1.1, 1.4 the gaps now. Meanwhile, MRK, on those medium tyres, has been able to close the gap in Maggots and Beckett's. But now you see GoldenDrift burning down the straight. He doesn't want MRK to get anywhere close to him. Unfortunately, that's too late. Meanwhile, Knight being very, very careful there. Almost goes into the back of MRK. He's trying not to make a risky move. He knows how important this is as Ghost Rider receives a 3-second time penalty. He is down in P14. Will have no effect on the top end of this race as MRK has set the fastest lap of the race. 28.1 that time around. Knight is so much faster. And will go for the move into turn 4. Or 5, sorry. Is it 5? No, it's turn 6. Up the inside. Side by side still. MRK keeps it. Well, he'll try and keep it around the outside. He's got the grip on those softs, but he can't make the move done. But now, The run to Cops. He tries to go up the inside. Couldn't find a way through. Will sit behind. Now through Cops. No contact. Clean racing. Beautiful defending from MRK and great attacking from Knight as well. As Knight has cut the corner into Magata Beckett. He's got a 3 second. He's no longer a factor in the end of this race. Now they should be working together. As Muckmage also receives a 3 second. Chat is having an absolute nightmare right now. Especially the Williams fans and teammates of MRK. As Amamo has now overtaken Muckmage. Oh, there's contact! Contact into the final set of corners. And MRK has lost a huge chunk of time. And he's got no ERS. Now Knight all over the back of him. Got to be mindful of your braking points. You don't want to make a mistake. Yellow flags. That's for a Ferrari. That's Angry Shadow once again. DRS enabled. Through goes Knight. And now MRK has but one choice, and that is to sit behind Knight and hope he pulls him along. Knight should still have the overall pace advantage on those soft tyres. All MRK needs to do is stick with him. But GoldenDrift is monitoring his tyre wear. He's monitoring his pace perfectly. He still has that 3 seconds to contend with though. Meanwhile, back down the order. Gaps have opened up so much there's barely a battle on track. Amamo Vince is the first one I can find. With the exception of maybe Jim and Norm. Jim, of course, looking for a good points haul today. He needs to close the gap to people like Knight and Cartman. But he's had a bad exit of Beckett's. Here comes Amamo. DRS enabled. Up the inside of Vince. And we'll get the move done clean as you like. But Vince has held it around the outside. Now into the heavy braking point. The chicane. Amamo brakes later. Oh, there's contact. And Vince goes over the curb. And he drops 2 positions. And that's unfortunate. Meanwhile, B-Slice now sat behind Amamo. He's got no penalties to his name, I want to point out. He's had a completely clean race so far and has done an amazing job for that Alpine team. Bringing home points if he finishes where he does. As meanwhile, Jim has actually got past Norm up the inside into turn 4, or turn 6, sorry. Great job from him. It's exactly what he needed to do. Meanwhile, MRK is just dropping further and further back. He's now 9 tenths away from Knight. I don't think MRK has the pace to keep up. The gap between him and GoldenDrift. This is the key battle. 2.2 seconds. But MRK is going to have DRS down the straight. That's going to gain him about a tenth and a half. Maybe more. As I think GoldenDrift was actually dumping there onto the straight. Because the gap has not moved at all. Meanwhile, B-Slice has got past Amamo. Great job from him. Up to PA. Now close to his teammate, who is in P7. It's been a great performance from B-Slice. Meanwhile, behind them, Muckmage has closed up. He's got a 3 second to work with, though. So we'll struggle. And meanwhile, Knight's soft tyres are definitely starting to go off. He's losing ground to the race leader. And this was the issue with pitting so early, as a yellow flag for the Ferrari. With Angry Shadow once again. Meanwhile, B-Slice is under a bit of pressure now. He's got both Amamo and Muckmage right behind him. Amamo's got DRS. We'll look to the inside. Turn 6. Goes deep. B-Slice goes to the switchback. Couldn't find it. Now we'll go wide. Tries to keep the grip, but there's marbles there on the exit. And what that's done is it's invited Muckmage into the battle. Who's done a great job monitoring his ERS. He's right there now. Battle through. Cops. This is a great little battle between these lot. Meanwhile at the front, MRK. 2.8 the gap between him and GoldenDrift. And he's closing down the straight. But the gap is starting to widen to a point that even he does not want to see it. 3 seconds is the magic number. Meanwhile, behind them, Cartman is seeing his chances, potentially, of a P2 in the standings drift away. Currently, as for positions end, I think, no, Knight will have a 3-second time penalty. He will have P2 wrapped up. But he does have John Does work to contend with, who's caught up really well on those medium tyres. He's closed the gap to about half a second. And now, on the run down to turn 6, has DRS. His Angry Shadow has retired in the pit lane. Will not cause a safety car. MRK is out of the 3-second window. Williams are seeing crucial points in the championship fight go down the drain. Nicky G has not been able to make any movement. Meanwhile, Toast, who, by the way, was in the leading battle, is still stuck in P11. On board with MRK now. Onto the DRS straight. He's had a great exit using ERS. Forces Knight to go defensive, but Knight cannot keep alongside him comfortably before the breaking point. MRK back up to P2. The gap back down to 2.7. This is huge for MRK. Meanwhile, B-Slice and Omamo swapping positions once again. There's a yellow flag. It's for it's for Vince. Vince has gone off. And we saw that he got a 3-second time penalty earlier during that battle we were watching. But I think it's something more than that. I think there may have been forceful contact, or potentially he just went off himself. Either way, MRK under pressure from Knight, who's doing his best to keep those soft tyres working. MRK's had to go defensive though the past few corners. And what it's doing is it's giving room. But Knight backs out. But this is just throwing MRK's overall pace off. And it's costing him time. Back to intervals we go, because that's what matters now. Knight recognising he's not in this fight. He's just going to sit behind until the DRS straight. Now onto the DRS straight. Enables ERS. Kim gets a 3-second. And that's unfortunate for him, but it won't have any effect right now because Beeslice is comfortably behind. And I think I'm starting to see the strategy here. They are trading DRS. .1 the gap. 3.6 back to MRK. Nearly 3.7 now. The man who's been so unlucky at points this season has been the focal point of today's race. Earlier this season, the first round, lost the win to GoldenDrift due to a mistake he made. He got the penalty. It cost him the race. Now, almost a full season later, it's come back full circle. Except this time it's GoldenDrift with the penalty. But MRK just doesn't have the pace in the tyres anymore. And the gap is widening. GoldenDrift has done a great job monitoring this race. Managing his tyres, managing his pace. And avoiding making any silly mistakes. But he does still have that 3 second to contend with. And that could be problematic come the end of this. Meanwhile, MRK, great exit. Onto the hanger straight. We'll go for the move again. And Knight doesn't fight it around the outside. But the gap is so wide now between the two. 3.8, 3.9, nearly 4 full seconds between MRK and GoldenDrift. That it's all about done. That race is all but over. As meanwhile there's a yellow flag. It's for John Does Work! The Mercedes has gone off. And this has huge implications, because what that's done is it's brought Jim back into contention here. He's now 3 seconds clear of him. That puts Jim up to P6. 8 points for Jim. Meanwhile, McLaren goes round. That'll be Zoso in Sector 1. It's not Cartman. Oh, and John's almost lost it again. And that's given Amamo P7. And brought Toast up to P9. Meanwhile, GoldenDrift suffering on those mediums with grip. He's lost a lot of grip and lost a lot of time in Maggots and Beckett's there. And meanwhile, Knight doesn't slingshot past this time. Sits behind. Late on the brakes. Tradition for him. Meanwhile, B-Slice back ahead of Omamo. This forever battle, it seems, between these two drivers. 1.5 seconds ahead of Toast, who's just about a second ahead of John currently. But as things stand, it will be GoldenDrift recording another race win here this season. A dominant start to the season. Looked almost certain to be the champion in the early doors. Had a struggle and a couple of slips in the midfield as Zoso retires into the pit lane. No points for him, no finish again in the final race of the season. But after what was a very difficult race, as Cartman receives a 3 second. Now that is crucial for Knight, because now he doesn't drop behind him. Now he needs that P2. And he will secure what would be a magical P2 in the standings. And you can see it immediately. The 3 second has come up and he's immediately gone on the attack. Fastest lap, that's worth looking at, yeah. MRK does have fastest lap, so he will get the extra point. As Knight has already overtaken him. I was looking at the wrong battle. I didn't realise, I'm sorry. I thought I was looking at the right battle. Yes, MRK does have fastest lap. Yep. No one seems to be boxing to try and set a new one. Therefore, that will be the fastest lap at the end of the race. Meanwhile, back to the gap. 4.8 is the gap between Knight and GoldenDrift. If that hasn't secured it, I don't know what will. Anyway, back to the legendary battle of B-Slice and Omamo. Now with an added toasty element. Very heavy on the brakes there. Does a great job getting the car stopped and turned in. And Toast does seem to have pace this weekend. He's just not been able to replicate it where necessary. Meanwhile, Cartman is very quickly catching the back of MRK and Knight. Gap down to 1.5 seconds now. Won't make much of a difference unless something drastic happens with Knight and MRK. Meanwhile, 3 quick moves there from the Mercedes driver of Omamo. But B-Slice is up the inside. Hunting maybe for the move. He couldn't find it. Toast's going to find it instead. Into the chicane he goes. Comfortably alongside. Then ahead of B-Slice, who's gone deep and has lost control of the car. He is now under pressure from John Does Work. And that has brought an end to the Omamo B-Slice saga. And B-Slice has lost more positions. Nicky G now getting a point for the Williams car. Great job for him. Recovering from that first lap incident. He might be on for 2 though. John Does Work. Final lap of the race. Oh, he goes hunting for the move. There's contact. It's forced him off the road. And John is all over the road now. Here comes B-Slice. Up the inside. Into turn 6, John goes deep. B-Slice keeps it respectful though. Will he try and send it around the outside? He goes super deep. Going for the cutback. He's got the run to Cops. Meanwhile, Knight and MRK are keeping Cartman at bay. But it will not matter for long. Meanwhile, Ghost Rider is actually boxed for a fastest lap, so we might lose a point here. Here comes MRK. Round the outside. Nicky G gets a 3 second for corner cutting. And that's the end of his chance of staying in the points. What a time to lose it as well. Final lap. GoldenDrift has won the Grand Prix here at Silverstone. Knight will finish P2. On track, MRK P3, Cartman P4. Normbash is too far back to make a difference. He'll finish P5 ahead of Jim, who I think will just about edge out Omamo here on time penalties. Then it will be toast. Nicky across the line, but John and B-Slice will displace him from the points. 2 points wasted there for the Williams team. Mark Mage has crashed on the final lap, but he has got the job. Nicky also had a 10-second as well, but what that has meant is that Nicky will finish P12 behind Mark Mage. Now we're on board with Ghost Rider. Does he have the pace? This is the crucial question. Has he been quick enough to get fastest lap? He's 1.8 seconds up. This is the key now. We're watching a qualifying lap in play. Can Ghost Rider do it? Heavy braking. Clips the curb on the inside. He's lost the back end slightly. Pushing it through. I don't think it's going to be fast enough. Across the line. It is! He's still fastest lap on the line. And Ghost Rider will finish P13 on track. And I wonder if he's actually got fastest lap. We will double check. That will be a point away from Williams if they have. It would be an Aston Martin doing it as well, which is so ironic. We'll see. As we now wait for the podium for the final time this season. It will be GoldenDrift on the top step. MRK there in P2. Alongside him, Knight, making another podium for him. A great job from Knight this season to be in that conversation. Cartman will take P2 in the standings in the end. We'll quickly try and pull it up. Chat. Let's get you up on screen to get your thoughts and feelings. It will be MRK's fastest lap. He did hang on to it in the end. Ghost Rider only said a 29.8. It wasn't enough. And because of that, MRK will get the fastest lap and will get the extra point for the Williams team. Only 100th, or less than 100th in it between him and Knight's fastest laps, which is ridiculous considering Knight was on a set of softs. Either way, what a thrilling conclusion to the race. What a thrilling conclusion to the season. GoldenDrift wins once again. As we now look at me, unfortunately, in the screen. I'll try and get the 3 podium sitters on screen for you so you can have a chat with them as well. Let's see if I can get a couple of them in the interview box. If not, that's fine. But for now, what a race, what a season in tier number 5. And this is what happens when you get quality racers in the booth together. The best always seem to rise to the top. Congratulations once again to GoldenDrift and Red Bull. Great points today. We will start with our race winner. I'll pull him into the box now. GoldenDrift, you are race winner once again here in tier number 5. And again, it's through pure pace. What a performance from you today.
Oh my god. I another one of those where I'm just trying to survive away from penalties at the end. I had another 2 warnings at the final lap.
Wow.
Oh my god, it's over.
The season is over. You have secured both drivers and constructor standings for Red Bull Racing, and you've gained another good 25 points for your team heading through the constructors as well this season. You've done an amazing job for your team. I think it's now brought you to 148 points total this season, which is almost the highest of any driver in any tier this season. How does that make you feel to know that you're one of the more dominant drivers that has been in any tier in MRL this season?
I mean, at the beginning of the season, I really didn't know where I was going to be after taking a little over a year off of league racing. So just being able to come back and do MRL and do this, I really couldn't ask for any more.
That's fair. And for your rivals as well, there were several of them battling you throughout the race, but one that's always been there, it seems from day one, was MRK. It seemed like you didn't have the pace advantage in that first stint, but until the very end of it, where you were able to pull that gap. Was the safety car something that you were worried about in relation to MRK, or did you think that that was actually kind of perfectly timed for you to jump onto those hards to the end?
It's kind of a mix of both. When the safety car did come out, I looked at the MFD and my medium's already on the tire indicator. So I was kind of happy to get off of those tires at that time.
That's fair.
Just go for it.
Well, congratulations again, and thank you for hopping in the booth as often as you have this season. We've seen you pretty much every weekend that we've been able to. I hope to see you again, most likely in Tier 4, maybe Tier 3 next season. Do you think you'll have a chance at those higher tiers, battling with some of the slightly quicker drivers, or is this sort of the dominance that is not going to come about again?
I don't really think it's going to happen in the higher tiers.
That's fair. I wouldn't expect it either, I'll be honest with you. But you've done an amazing job this season. You should be very happy with yourself. Thank you once again for hopping at the booth, and congratulations on another race win here in MRL.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Alright. Swap it back over as we now get ready to welcome the second place finisher for the race. One of the legends of the booth. It is, in fact, MRK, who is with me now. MRK, welcome to the booth, and well done for another fantabulous race. You didn't secure the pole or the win, but you did get second best, and to me, that's good enough in my book.
Yeah, I think the last lap I get a little bit of some mistakes during going to Magnussen and Beckett. That was, I think, Golden was quick enough. But I think the fact that I had night between us for the last stint, like, just put everything away from me. And he was on soft, so the first 2 laps, it was very hard to shake him off. And by the time we were fighting, Golden, like, he pulled way enough for me to catch up. So yeah, well deserved to him. I tried my best, my hardest, to be honest, and I think that's the P2 is the best I could go. At some point, I didn't want to even fight Knight. Even the last lap, I was trying to go say he fight. I said, okay, you know what? Let me just not crash here and just bring it home. That's what I managed to do for once.
Yeah, it's a tough one when you have someone that you feel like are on inferior tires, just constantly battling you. But for you today, the cleanest race I think I've ever seen from you. An absolute dream of a race. You were able to keep it out, away from any penalties, away from the walls. Do you think that was always on your mind coming into this race with sort of the incidents that have happened this season where you've sometimes been at fault, sometimes not? Do you think that was in your head coming into this race, that you wanted to have a clean race regardless of where you ended up?
I think the last two, 3 races, my main goal was just to trying to bring it home, because I know pace-wise there is not more than 2 cars who can have the same pace as me for overlap. So if I can keep it clean, I am sure to be at least top 5 on the tier 5. So my main goal was that. Sometimes I tend to overdrive and try to push too much, and I just ending up spinning. So today was just, you know what, just do your regular lap, and I'm sure. And that works well. It's a shame I wait this late for the season to do so, but I will take it, and I'm going to learn from it and take it for next season. I hope so.
Well, you did some bits as well for Williams today. 18 points plus the fastest lap point. That brings you to 19. Good points for Williams, who were, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, 40 points ahead coming into this round. Another good solid haul against the Red Bull team that are chasing you down. You were able to limit them, mainly due to Midnight also retiring. But unfortunately, Nicky G fell out of the points on the final lap. So he wouldn't be scoring any more for you. Do you think that battling for Williams has been a good motivating factor for you this season?
Oh,
or,
yeah. Oh,
or-
yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. I can tell you.
Tell me about it.
If I was racing for myself, I don't think I will did this good. I was racing at some point for the team. I said, you know what? I need to stop my shenanigan and stop ruining the race because how many poles did I ruin? Like I have like
Half of them.
pole and only 1 or 2 wins because mostly of me like spinning it too early or that's it. And I said, you know what? I can do that to the team when I'm seeing that pace-wise, I should at least be the same pace as GoldenDrift on most of the track. If you remember our first round in Qatar, I win
did.
it on track,
Yeah.
and I just lost it by the pants. So pace-wise, I don't think he's away of me, but he was more consistent than ever I was dreamed to be. That's what I need to work for. And Giant fans, Dublias, I have a great team, and everything is great to be honest. In the chat, we had everything, and we help each other like nobody business, and that's just showing how is the results. I'm proud of this team, to be honest.
That's fair enough. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you've got to support your boys in Tier 4. So what I will say is this. Thank you for being a part of this season. Congratulations again on a P2. Well earned. And hopefully we'll see you next season competing at the front of the grid once again, because you were always a blast to watch, especially in those tight battles where you're battling someone wheel to wheel, because you're one of the more consistent drivers on that front. Thank you again.
True.
Have a great weekend.
You make it fun. You make it fun.
Stop
make
it.
it.
Stop it, you.
Seriously, your voice is something like really. I love to rewatch the race every time. So I have to say it. But
I may
once
have
again,
I may have had to
I wanna
commentate
see
you
you
battling for 10 laps, so you've got a lot to watch back. Anyway,
that's nice.
guys, stop spamming the love react in the chat. Stop it, all of you. Stop, whoever it is. Confetti as well. No. They're just spamming emotes now. Anyway, you have a good weekend, mate. I'll catch you all at some point and celebrate this P2.
That will do. All right, guys. I see you in Tier 4.
Bye-bye. All right, a very strong contender for driver of the season is MRK. But of course, we are going to try and get the final one in the booth now. It will be, I believe it will be Knight who will be joining us. The driver who went for the risky strategy onto soft tyres, but somehow made it work in the end, finishing P2 on track. And we'll be able to get him in, hopefully, to have a little chat. He is just currently typing in Tier 5, being asked a bunch of questions about how he took off or take the softs so far. So hopefully we'll get an answer from the mouth of the man himself. But in the meantime, if you haven't already, go over, have a look at Tier 5, or Tier 4 currently going on right now. It is Giants Fan and MRK in the booth. They are two of the most wonderful people in the world, and they are both deserving of your love and care. Give them support. If you also are still watching at this point for some reason, either for me or for everyone else that I'm still interviewing, do make sure to support the channel by becoming a member. When you do so, you're able to pick the tracks for some of the tracks for next season, and also you're giving back to this community. And we will be going from there. But we do have the final interview in the booth with me right now as I try and pull it up on stream. It is Knight1720, otherwise known as Knight on his own. And right now, Knight, you got yourself a P3 today. A great performance from you. You've secured P3 in the championship.
Yes, I am ecstatic right now. I was really fighting Cartman because I knew that if I got the race win or if I got P2 and he was lower than P4, I would have beat him, but he just got ahead of me in the championship by 1 point.
Yep. It was a ridiculously close battle at the end. But what I will say is you made a very risky call to be even at that point. Going for a 13-lap soft stint, 14 I think in the end, is a ridiculous risk at Silverstone. The tyres must have been dropping off towards the end. How did you manage to keep the cars so competitive at the front of the field?
I will tell you, I was betting with that. I had no faith. Like later on, when I started to feel the tires ease up, I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna lose my spot here to Bounty, but I was just like, keep calm, just breathe, and you might have it. But my tires at the end were at 71%.
Ooh, you're risking it then.
Yeah.
A little bit. Congratulations again on the P3 in the standings. Some good points today for Haas, who are looking to try and secure a good solid midfield position in the team's Constructors' Championship. Do you feel like the team has helped you at all this season in becoming the driver that you are and becoming someone that's been at the front of the field for most of the season as a whole? Or is it more of like an individual effort from your part that's led to that sort of positioning for yourself?
It was definitely a team effort, because there are days where like we all kind of just didn't have a good like weekend. Like I don't know if you remember the Hats performance in Mexico, but like we all almost didn't score any points.
I do remember that.
And so we just came together as a group and just we were like, guys, it's okay. We're first here to have fun, but also we're here as a team. So if one does bad, we all do bad. So let's just keep our heads set and just focus on getting good points. But at the end of the day, we all just made sure that we were having fun and supporting one another. And that in total just made me want to do better on my own. So it was kind of like a mix, but mainly the team.
That's fair. Well, I want to congratulate you once again on another solid win, or another solid podium finish, sorry. So used to saying win because GoldenDrift is normally the one I interview. But a solid podium finish, a solid qualifying as well today, and just a solid overall performance from you. You did an amazing job to be in the fight, and you've done an amazing job all season long. I can't wait to see what you're doing next season, whether it'll be here in Tier 5 or up a tier in Tier 4. I know that you're going to be a contender, no matter where you go.
Much appreciated. I'm definitely excited for next season. I am ready.
I think everyone is. Have a great evening, mate.
Thank you as well.
Alright, well, as I transition back a bit late on that one, I want to thank you all for sticking it out with me here in Tier 4 to the very end, if you have been here. Thank you for watching. We are going to wrap it up now, because this has been a very long day, and I've got to go prepare for Tier 3, because this is my home race and I'm not losing. You all have a great evening. We'll see you all hopefully sometime soon, around mid-January, for the start of Tier 5 Season 10. But if you don't know when to look out, keep your eyes peeled on the channel, because sooner rather than later, an event will pop up for you to watch. Thank you for watching. Tune into Tier 4, and we'll see you next time. That's the wrong button.